Have you ever seen a movie that made you go, what the hell were these people smoking when they conceived the idea of this? A movie so bad it made you rethink your assumptions of the human race as a whole. A movie so baffling it made you think that maybe you stumbled out of the charming universe you've called home for your whole life and into some alternate bizarro universe where the rules you're used to just don't apply anymore. I've seen a few such movies, and one of them definitely has to be this 2019 thriller Serenity. This movie is such a massive L, it deserves to be studied. If you want to see a movie take a big risk and then belly flop on the pavement so hard that it turns into an unrecognizable pile of mush, then fair warning, because I will be spoiling your opportunity to experience that by going into detail about the plot of this movie. But if you've already wasted your time on this movie, or you just have better things to do with your time in general, then let's plow ahead into talking about this absolute disaster of a film. The movie begins with the very oddly named character Baker Dill, who is played by Matthew McConaughey, and he's on a boat doing what he does best, namely catching fish. And very early on, we're introduced to the idea that he is obsessed with this single large tuna that he just really wants to catch, and he's nicknamed it Justice. But here in the beginning, he's got tourists on his boat who are trying to fish, and one of them hooks this tuna, and he just somehow knows that this is the one, and so he takes the fishing rod from his customer and starts reeling it in himself. And the customers are understandably upset about this, and they try to take their fishing rod back. And so Baker pulls out a knife and starts threatening them with it. And so they back off, of course, in order to not get stabbed. And he tries to go after this fish and tries to reel it in, but he fails, of course. When they get back to land, the customers obviously don't want to pay him because, I mean, who would want to pay for a service where you get threatened with a knife? And so that leaves Baker once again in a very bad financial situation. This is where we kind of get introduced to that element of the movie where basically he's not catching fish, he's struggling to make ends meet, and really the only way that he's paying his bills is by banging this older lady who it keeps paying for him to come and bang her. It's kind of a weird relationship. With the sex scenes in this movie, you can tell that they're going for a sort of neo-noir tone akin to something like Body Heat. That's a tone and an atmosphere that I can really get into, and it's something that I appreciate about the early scenes of this movie, actually. So Baker is drinking at a bar when his ex-wife, who's played by Anne Hathaway, shows up. And this is where we start getting introduced to the backstory between these two, where at one point in the past, they were married with a young son named Patrick, but Baker went away to war, and we're just told that war changed him in some way. And so Anne Hathaway's character sort of fell out of love with him. And when he got back, she was with this new guy, this wealthy dude named Frank. And so that was the end of things between them. But over the years since they last saw each other, it has turned out that Frank is actually an abusive asshole who physically abuses her and her child. One important thing that starts to get brought up here is this weird telepathic connection that Baker and his son apparently have, where Anne Hathaway tells him that when he talks to Patrick, the son, that he can hear him, and it's this kind of... It's in the beginning, when you don't know what's going on, it's this very weird thing. And I'm not going to say it gets less weird when you understand what's going on, but it is setting up the big twist that's coming later. So Anne Hathaway makes Baker a deal. She tells him that she'll pay him $10 million to kill Frank. And that's obviously something that Baker really needs since he's in a bad financial situation. But for some reason, he says no. And this is something among many things, this is something I still don't fully understand about this movie. I don't know why he's so insistent in the beginning that he doesn't want to kill Frank. it seems like he would really be jumping at the opportunity to free his son from this abusive situation, but for some reason he keeps saying no in the beginning. So Frank, the abusive husband character, shows up in this small fishing village, and we get this scene where he's inspecting Anne Hathaway's leg, and he sees something, and she tells him, like, oh, it's just a scratch, and he's like, ooh, just a scratch. Were you playing with a cat or something? Which I'm pretty sure is a reference to the fact that Anne Hathaway had played Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises. It could just be a coincidence, but I thought it was a reference. I thought it was kind of a funny thing to bring up. So Frank and Anne go down to the docks to try to get on a fishing boat with Baker. This is where Anne wanted him to assassinate her husband, basically. And Baker initially says no, but Frank offers to pay him $10,000, and so he ends up relenting and deciding to take him out. They go out on the ocean, and there's some pretty solid, like, will they, won't they kind of tension of wondering whether or not Baker's actually going to go through with this and actually kill Frank, but he ends up not doing it and taking him back to the dock. And so that night, Anne Hathaway comes out to the boat and tries to convince him to take out Frank the next day and kill him. And so they bang, and this is yet another one of these awkwardly framed scenes where, like, in the moment it's fine, but in light of some of the revelations that come later, this scene ends up being extremely weird. We'll get to that in a bit, but Baker ends up changing his mind and deciding that he is going to take out Frank the next day and assassinate him. So he goes home to the sea van where he lives, and someone is waiting for him outside. Throughout the movie up until this point, we've had these scenes of this nerdy-looking dude with glasses and a briefcase who has been following him around and, like, trying to get his attention, but keeps failing at it for some reason. And now he emerges and starts trying to convince Baker to just catch the fish instead of killing Frank. And so, of course, Baker is not happy about the fact that someone knows about his scheme, and so he pulls out a knife and starts threatening this guy and trying to get more information out of him. And this is where we get one of the worst scenes I have ever seen in a movie. Legitimately, I don't even have words to describe how bad this is, so I'm just gonna let the movie speak for itself, okay? I'm just gonna play a clip that I have slightly edited for time, but it's more or less just the scene from the movie. And I'm just gonna play this for you and let you experience the absolute roller coaster that this took me on.
I really shouldn't drink. I can't say anymore. I have to go.
Who the fuck are you?
Mr. Dill, if you have to kill me, then kill me. But I'm just playing my part in the game.
What fucking game?
This game. Don't you get it? Someone made the whole thing up. All of this. Plymouth Island is a game. You see, someone made a world on their computer so they could play games. But his favorite has always been Catch the Tuna. The lighthouse, light, dark, 1, 0. The fundamental process. The rule is you've got to catch a particular fish. That rule is your compulsion, and your compulsion is a rule in a game. But now, it seems the fish is no longer the point. The new game is that you kill a man. Who the fuck I am is I am the rules. And according to the rules, on Plymouth Island, no one dies. It isn't meant to be that kind of game. So as a representative of the existing program, My question is, the big question is, why has the creator changed the rules?
In case you didn't catch it, this is the big twist. The entire movie up until this point has been a video game created by Baker's real-life son, Patrick, who is sitting at his computer and coding this fishing simulator. Yes, this is actually a real plot point from a major motion picture in the year 2019. This raises so many questions, I don't even know where to start. I mean, all the scenes up until this point where we've seen Baker interacting with people, is that part of the game? Are those cutscenes? What about the scenes where he wasn't present? Are those part of the game too? If so, why? More importantly, how do we interpret the sex scenes that have come up until this point? I mean, we learned that the three main characters we've been seeing up until this point have counterparts in the real world. So the real Baker went to the military and he died in combat. And so his wife, played by Anne Hathaway, obviously married the abusive Frank, who is abusive to her and their son, Patrick. And so Patrick created this whole game in order to be like a fantasy of, you know, the good times he had with his dad, fishing or whatever. But does this mean that he coded a sex scene between his parents into his video game? If so, do I even need to explain how weird and nasty that is? Also, why is the game trying to convince Baker not to kill Frank? If that's the new objective that Patrick gave, then why is the game fighting against that? It's Patrick's game. Can't he just change the code? And if the code doesn't want him to kill Frank, then how does he have the free will to fight against it? Like, isn't he part of the game? Yeah, it makes no sense. And then, of course, there's just the absolute absurdity of this kid who's supposed to be like 9 or 12 or something like that, who's coding an entire fishing simulator on his computer that's like realistic and has all this stuff. Like, that's obviously absurd as well. The movie tries to answer some of these questions, but honestly, the answers end up just leaving me with even more questions. It's really not even worth trying to figure out. And the worst part is that we are an hour into this movie, so there is still 40 minutes left. 40 minutes that mean nothing now, because we know that none of any of this that's happening is actually real. There's no point in going through the rest of this movie in depth because, again, none of it matters. But basically, Baker tries to kill Frank, and the game puts all these obstacles in the way, but he eventually succeeds. And simultaneously, in the real world, Patrick grabs a knife and goes and kills his real-life abusive stepfather. I guess he was, like, inspired by the game that he created. Yeah, in the end, computer program Baker talks through the screen to his real-life son, and they share a touching moment. Yeah, it's bad. What makes this movie so baffling to me is that, unlike most bad movies, it doesn't start out bad. It has all the odds in its favor. It has great actors giving really solid performances, a great noir-style premise, really good atmospheric cinematography, and a big budget to make of the world an oyster, and yet this is what they do with it? It's a well-known cliche that It Was All a Dream is one of the worst plot twists you can do, but this movie saw that and went, hold my beer. This is the only movie I've seen where it goes from like a solid 6 out of 10 all the way down to like a 3 out of 10 in a single scene. And all I'm left with is just like, what the hell were they thinking? Anyway, if you've seen this movie, tell me what you think about it in the comments. I'd also like to know if anyone has ever seen a worse plot twist than the one in this movie. Like, tell me in the comments if you have ever seen a plot twist worse than this one. It's really hard to imagine. But yeah, with that said, I will see you in the next review.